Hello there. You are listening to the Light FM's Girl Talk podcast, brought to you by the Stoner Group. Thank you so much for listening today. My name is Carol.
This is Alicia.
Hey, I'm Trisha.
And today we are going to dive into the world of, are we pushing our kids too hard? Well, in the news recently, there has been a story about parents who have used money to buy privilege for their children to get an education somewhere where they ordinarily wouldn't be able to get into, which strikes me as completely funny because that's the way my mind works, number one. Number two, why would you pay for an education for a child who cannot pass the classes
Right.
to get a degree where they can't do a job? I mean, that just seems like a
Setting
little
them up for failure.
Yeah.
It's got to be, it's the pressure.
You think that's it?
Well, I don't know. And from their perspective, I mean, the news stories are all these wealthy families, some very famous, felt the need to assist their children, and more than assist. I mean, the stories
I was going to say, you're being awfully
stories are
politically
rampant
correct.
about, they didn't even fill out their own application.
No.
They are playing on sports teams that they've never performed the sport in their life.
That's right. Yeah. Faces photoshopped onto sport pictures.
Really?
Really.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like they get to the team and they're like, well, they've never played crew, or they never were on the swim. They've never
Played crew.
swam
I'm not
before.
sure Alicia has either. Played crew.
I don't know a whole lot about it.
That's all right, darling. At least you didn't try to get into college.
That's
with a
exactly right.
scholarship.
But you know what is in your head to think, okay, I need to help my kid get there? Is it because they were famous and they felt that their spotlight was on them, or do we all have a little of that in us?
Yeah, status, right? Status for the parents, status for the kids. I think that probably prompts a lot of that. But I saw a quote from someone, and this one just kind of hit me. It said, the saddest part about this is that they're basically showing their kids that they don't believe in them.
I know, that's the sad part.
Oh, gosh.
Because the kids are like, oh, I couldn't do it on my own. You had to kind of pay my way. I'm not sure if that's how the kids are taking it. I don't know, but that's the problem with when we pave the way for our kids, is that it shows them we don't trust you to do it for yourself.
Well, they didn't even try to do it on their own.
Well, here's the thing, and I will go ahead and put this out there that I've been guilty of this as well. I think we try to protect our kids from failure.
Yes, of course.
And that's where the
100%.
whole
Of course.
participation trophy comes in,
Yes.
But I have learned some of my greatest lessons in failure in my life. And so as I look back on that, and I think I may have told this story on Girl Talk before, but a couple years ago, many years now, my daughter was learning how to roller skate. And I realized I am not a roller skater. I don't know if you can tell that by looking at me or not, but I'm not a roller skater. Okay. So I realized that in helping her try to learn how to roller skate, my job wasn't to teach her how to roller skate. My job was to teach her how to fall. And I feel like that's part of our job as parents, to teach them how to deal with when you don't make the team, when you don't get what you had worked so hard for. And it makes us uncomfortable because we just want to fix it. Yeah. But are we cheating our kids out of something more valuable in life when we don't let them fail?
Or I think I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard as a parent to watch your kid fail.
Sure.
And how do you pick them up and help them to get back up? But I also think, too, is teaching them to have drive on their own, because today, kids have a lot of things that we didn't have. Our kids' life, I think every generation tries to make their life for their kids easier than they had it. There was something in your own life that you struggled with, and you don't want to see your kids struggle with the same thing. So you want to try to make it easier. Yeah. And then it gets to the point in some families where there is no hardship at all, like these wealthy families that are in the news, where they have every resource at their disposal, and so there is no grit or working hard ethic to get there on their own.
Yeah.
And so that's what I hope. My kids just want to get somewhere on their own merit and working hard.
Yeah.
And it's a very hard struggle and a hard balance as a parent.
Let me tell you, because we were talking about doing this on Girl Talk, I was, had my radar up, and there was an article in USA Today that said a new poll conducted by the New York Times showed that parents don't stop handling things for their kids when they become adults.
Oh.
Like, we don't stop removing obstacles to child frustration or defeat, thus, earning ourselves the moniker of snowplow or lawnmower parents. That's big. So, but it looked at people 18 to 28. It said 76% reminded their adult children of deadlines they need to meet, including schoolwork. 74% made appointments for them, including doctor's appointments. This is people
say that
18 to 28.
They're making appointments for them?
Yes. 74% of parents still make appointments for their kids 18 to 28.
You can see my eyes right now.
Well, I heard about, there's been a trend where parents are going with their adult kids to job interviews.
Which is absolutely insane.
Hello?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that this day and time? It's happening this day and time. But I look back and think, they would have hired my mom, no question. They would have said, you have the job. Your kid, not so much. But listen to this. 15% of parents admitted that, this is with parents with kids in college, that they had texted or called them to wake them up so they didn't sleep through a class or a test.
Yeah, I've heard those stories.
I'm telling you, I struggle with this. I really do. And I think to myself, well, I don't have that kind of money, so I could never bribe to get my kids into the right college. But I have done my own share of this before. Like this year, the beginning of this school year, I was so concerned because one of my sons was going into a school, and this particular classroom that he was in, none of his friends were in there. Yeah. And I literally was planning calling the principal to see if I could get him switched into a classroom with his friends because I so desperately was concerned about him being in this class without people he knew and how he's going to have a hard time. He's going to have a hard time finding people to sit with at lunch. And I literally had to stop myself from doing this. I was going to do it. And I was even asking him, I said, well, what class would you like to be in? And he said to me, Mom, stop.
Oh, good.
Really?
He did. And
that should prove to you that you're doing a good job.
Yeah. Oh, well, I know, right? That's a good thing that he was able to do that. No, absolutely.
I prayed about it. Really, I do. I remember I was walking. I had my headphones on. I was listening to music, and I was praying. And I felt God saying, "You can't save him from this. Yeah. He's got to go through it." Mm-hmm. And so after that, I just sort of pulled back. But and it's been a harder year for him, but he's okay.
Okay, but let's drill down a little bit deeper to this. Is it because we as parents are afraid that their failure might say something about us?
Oh, I think there's some piece of that. Yeah.
For me, there is. And I have had to consciously, because I was very athletic when I was in school. I played every single sport I could. If I could have played all the sports, I probably would have. I was just an active kid. I know you find that hard to believe, but I was just, all over the place. But my daughter, she likes to do dance. And so I would love for her to play basketball because I'm a basketball freak. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't care anything about it. And so I've consciously had to make myself say, if she doesn't want to, I'm hands off.
Well, you want to be, there's certain things like you want to be the soccer mom, but your kids don't like soccer. Or you want to be this and your kids don't want to do that. And you're like, well, they need to do something. How do you get them to do something? Mm-hmm. And some things I think are important, like being active. So in our family, one of our struggles is sports because neither of my children are like huge sports fanatics. Mm-hmm. And how do we keep them active if they don't want to participate in a team sport? And I think there's a lot you can learn in a team sport.
Sure, it's true.
So we've struggled with that, and how much do we push them, and how much do we let them choose something different? And there's all kinds of dynamics with sports and doing them and not doing them,
right?
And we haven't quite figured it out.
Well,
yet.
I was going to say, what have you chosen? How have you handled it?
Well, we have chosen to do different types of sports that are more inclusive that have things with their friends. Mm-hmm. So we did not have a good experience with like the community sports team. The leadership just wasn't there. The coaching and training wasn't there. So they both had really terrible experiences and didn't like that sport. So we gave up like a total sport. Uh-huh. So I kind of looked and we experienced with different sports and found something that they did like. And then just kind of trying to make if they're not in a sport, trying to get them to be active and be outside or do the treadmill or something like that. And, but even that gets hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we, at some point I do have to kind of give up and say, you know what? is just not a sports kid.
Yeah.
And there's other things that they're good at. And actually, my son said something this weekend. He's got a lot of different talents, a lot of different interests, and we're trying to think ahead of like, what is he going to be when he grows up, and how can we lead him in that direction, and what resources do I have to help him get to the school that would help him the most?
Right.
And I've always said, I'm like, hey, you would be great at writing songs for movies. He's very musical, very creative. He loves to write. He hates to sing. But I was like, you could write movie music soundtracks for music, and you would be amazing, and you could be a millionaire, and I could retire. And he's like, that's kind of interesting, but I don't think I want to do that. And then his aunt said something about, hey, you should be a structural engineer. And he goes, everyone's coming up to me telling me what I should be when I grow up, but they're not really things I'm interested in.
Wow.
And I was kind of like, took a pause and a step back, and I'm like, okay, I need to kind of reevaluate and keep giving him ideas and encouraging him in different things.
Yeah.
But I sometimes think we do pigeonhole kids, and we're like, okay, this is the track you're on, and you're going to do this, and you have to be the best, and we're going to get you into the best school because that's what you are going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it so hard when the kids don't want to do what we did, just like exactly what you said. They're different than we are.
Right.
They've got pieces of us in them, but they got different interests and
each
different
kid is
ideas.
different.
Well, and even when that comes to academics too, I had to. I mean, academics in my house growing up, like that was the most important thing. Like that was sports came second, academics was first, and like I really pushed myself to, and I have to realize that my kid may not always make the same grades I made, and she may not accept, and really learning has completely changed from the time that I was in school.
It's different.
Yeah.
Well, I have a friend who's a math teacher. She's amazing at math. She loves math, but her daughter struggles with that particular subject. She's
There you
like,
go.
Yeah.
It's hard for me.
Yeah. I just don't know. Ugh. Anyway.
Well, when we push, I think we're pushing them in the direction we want them to go versus allowing them to make some choices. Or at least that's the case for me. Like I begged, bribed, cajoled my children into tennis lessons.
Yeah.
Because I played tennis, and that kind of thing. And one of them wants to, the other one doesn't. I guess the one wants to. Maybe I'll have to ask him after this. But this is good. This is a good thought. But it is interesting. The idea of, are we pushing our kids? Maybe we don't have to push them so hard if it's the right direction.
Right.
Well, and the other thing I have noticed is things are happening younger and younger and younger. In middle school now, you can take classes for high school credit.
Not only are you taking high school credit courses, but they're pushing you in a direction, like for the rest of your life. Y'all, I had 2 years of college under my belt, and I still didn't know. I don't know that I know what I want to be when I grow up.
That's right.
now.
People still can't change careers multiple times as adults.
It's true.
But then that leads to SATs are being taken in middle school, and preparation for that can start in elementary school. And then where do you fit in? And you're like, oh my gosh, we haven't done that yet.
Right.
And are we going to be behind? So we're working to get our kids ahead, and then it creates this ripple effect for every other person, including ourselves, of where are we on that line?
Continuum. Well, you're making me think, what is my motive? What is my motive? What's my motive for getting them into tennis or pushing them to take some prep course or, some camp? Some science camp or something like that. What is my motive for that? I think that's a decent question to ask yourself.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's why I think this whole issue right now with the colleges is a big deal, because I think ultimately parents are thinking, I need to get my kid into a certain school. But is that really, then that's been hard for me, because I want my kids to be able to go to school wherever they want to go. And it's hard to get into regular colleges, let alone like elite schools.
Sure.
And I want to do whatever I can to help them without doing it for them. But if I have resources and I know things that can help them get to where they want to go, I want to provide that to an extent. I mean, they have to do the work, but I think that everyone gets caught up in, I don't even look forward to the days when we look to, okay, it's time to go to college, and then where's everyone going? They put the list in they distribute the list of, we've got so many kids going to this school and so many kids going to this school, and
Parents
what if your
posting
kids
acceptance letters on, social.
Yeah. All the
yeah.
letters come and parents
Oh,
post
that's right.
them.
That's right.
And what if your child decides they don't want to go to school,
Yeah.
or they didn't get
Or a
into
trade.
school,
Or does a trade.
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is valuable.
Sure.
But how do you, as a parent, feel about that?
Yeah.
And how do we reconcile what our dreams might be with what our kids' dreams might be, or what they need?
I think you landed on it right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said it before. What is our motive behind? Because really, at the end of the day, you don't want to remove those huge life lessons. Like I said before, I've learned some of my most valuable lessons from failure. And I can say that both as a child and as an adult,
Yeah.
And so don't remove those. But really ask yourself, what is my motive behind this? And then be honest with yourself about the answer. Because I think we can say, I just want to help my child get be the best they can be. And that sounds great. And it's good for a poster. But if it's not the truth, then you're just going to be frustrated for the rest of your life. So if you got thoughts on this, we'd love to hear from you. Obviously, we don't have it all figured out yet. So if you have the answers,
Please write us.
we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. We also want to say a great big thank you to our sponsor, the Stoner Group, for being a part of what we're doing here at Girl Talk. And once again, just want to mention that you can share this podcast. We'd love for you to share it. Also, we have a Facebook page. Tell them how to get there.
If you go to thelightfm.org and go click on our Facebook icon, you can get through to our girlfriends of the Girl Talk podcast. You can also look in the show notes, and I'll have a link down there too.
Yep, it's an exclusive group of gals that we ask questions from time to time and get your thoughts on what the next podcast needs to be. So thank you so much for doing that, and we'll see you next time right here on the Girl Talk podcast.